You know, the curse and the blessings of Santa Cruz, California is a very, very tight microcosm and analogy for the curse and the blessings of being a spirit in a flesh suit on this place we call Gaia Sophia. Because it's so physically beautiful in part, and you have so many opportunities to dance, play, relax in a beautiful environment. But yet, if you have the modern comfort and convenience of a legal place, and you weren't born with the proverbial silver spoon in your mouth, you don't have the moments. You may have to work 3 or 4 jobs if you're not specialized in your occupation. You can't have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. And I was trying to take a nap here, and it occurred to me that the modern human financial slave is very much the same as the Rider-Waite Pamela Coleman Smith illustration for the tarot card, the Devil, which depicts a married couple chained to the devil. But if you look very closely, you notice that the handcuffs are very loose so that the man and the woman could both slip their hands out of the cuff. Well, your marriage contract is a 3-way contract with the Matrix, with the system of black robes. I stayed in the house with a couple 15 years ago, some Jewish mutts who converted to Hare Krishna, who decided to not get legally married, and they had a child together, and the man says he got a better deal than if they had gotten legally married. He gets to hang out with his son more days a week than the court system would allow. And so, which seems to be an intelligent choice. So I'm not talking about hierogamic union, but someone who marries for money, or someone who marries for whatever reason they marry. When you agree to your rental agreement, to your lease or leash, to your mortgage, to be extracted for every moment of your life, the mortal gauge, the death pledge of every moment of your life. If you live in a legal place in Santa Cruz and you give every penny to enjoy this beauty, you probably have way better hygiene than me, and you think more safety. You don't have to worry about any law enforcement or ICE agents coming after you. You don't have to worry about theft. You don't have to worry about having to consume all your food if it's perishable. But you're wearing this handcuff loosely. The modern human financial slave condition of slavery is just like that tarot card. You're in the handcuffs and you're chained to the devil. But what keeps you in the chain is not the chain. It's you agreeing to keep your hand in the chain. It's just like Pavlov's experiments with the dogs. When You know that you're free theoretically, but you're so trauma bonded to your oppressor that you stay ideologically, mentally stuck in prison. Even though you know if you did that difficult inner work, you could have a different situation. One of my early videos was called "Why Most House Slaves Stayed." Because historical research shows that more than 50% of not the chattel who were whipped in the field, but the nurses, the wet nurses, the cooks, and the house slaves stayed. Why did they stay? Because they were protected from the elements. They were, on occasion, loved by their master. One of our so-called forefathers, Thomas Jefferson, was rather powerfully hypocritical when he would preach against slavery and say we must end it. But he kept slaves, and he even reproduced with them. That's why there's a whole lot of, probably hundreds of, melanin-rich, dark-skinned people from the USA with the last name Jefferson. And just like these girlfriends and secret wives of Thomas Jefferson, many, many people are stuck in the matrix demiurgic system of financial slavery because it is cozy, because they perceive that it protects them. And that's why, yes, often if you ask someone how they're doing, even when they work 3 or 4 jobs to survive financially, the Cube Tech Matrix in Santa Cruz, California, they will say, "Oh, I'm blessed. I live in paradise." Even though, how many moments do they have, a week or a strong, to enjoy it? And it's often none. Your creativity, your ability to be a creator, your ability to be a divine being, may be contingent upon harmlessness. And maybe that is why the devil, Yaldabaoth, the false self-gods have no creativity. Because they have no ability to be harmless. They lost connection to the heart. If you consider the story of Lucifer, long ago, like 1,000,000 years ago, they lost the ability to feel love. This is why a person with narcissist personality disorder has no empathy, no respect, and thinks of you as an extension of the black hole, false self that doesn't exist. And if the story of Yaldabaoth is true, it's an imposter god. It cannot feel anything because it's not a real creation. If Sophia chose to do it alone, which is why my music only affected some of the folks. It never came from the inspiration of a divine hierogamy. And you may pay the rent on timey every month. But so long as your life is governed by those who designed the weekend, who worship a God who eats babies, and at the top of the pyramid, they eat babies too. And their Sabbath, their ritual day to worship, begins at sundown Friday and ends after Sunday morning, because they don't worship the sun, the solar ball of fiery light. They worship the darkness of false self-control. And did you know that this Pacific Ocean is about 8 degrees colder than it was last week? Yes, that is partially due to geoengineering, or entirely due to it. And how is that possible in the Northern Hemisphere? How is it possible that if one parent takes a child to the state of California and agrees to it, they can go to a surgeon and be legally castrated because they believe in gender dysmorphia, that they were born in the wrong body, or be prescribed hormone blockers or given testosterone or estrogen legally, because the government, especially the left socialist government, was made in the image of the anti-life pretender gods. And yes, it has a good side too. The Santa Cruz County Library allows you to print pages for free. They try to pay people if they're mentally ill or retarded or have a physical disease to exist. And if you're poor, you can get food stamps. But now, with the big, beautiful bill, if there's nothing physically or mentally wrong with you, you're going to have to work 20 hours a week. Because our landlord president, who sits literally on a golden toilet, has to take a shit on these socialist, gifts. And I feel like I don't have any friends in Santa Cruz, except maybe when I'm at the Brave and Free Santa Cruz meeting, which often gets a feeling of tension because they have to rent out the Aptos Grange by the hour and pack in the program. And of course, just about everyone there beside me is paying that exorbitant, insane rent. And since the lockdown, of course, the mandates and the rules destroyed a large part of the live music business, and I was permanently kicked off Keith the Rebellious Meat Puppets BitChute comments section for listing the beautiful reminders of the original operating system of Christ Sophia gave us, where we had free will, that are still here. But yes, since 2020, it's become more and more difficult, if not in some ways impossible, to experience many of the things I listed there, unless I go out of my way and put a lot of effort into it. Because yes, the false self-gods are very organized. But what keeps the financial slavery going? Why is it that there's all these YouTube videos now, which are a lot of them are made by this dready woman, mama, who moved to Thailand, that they keep putting on my feed, saying that USA is now a third world country. And like Whitney Webb, she can speak more honestly about it without fear, having moved out from under it. Because of the criminal robber baron 1% New World Order plan to squeeze us mercilessly, to squeeze us tighter and tighter, because everyone who agrees to financial slavery is in a very powerful psychological noose. But just like that tarot card and the Rider-Waite Devil, the Rider-Waite deck of the devil, those chains are only still around your hand because you agree to it. Because people are afraid, I guess, of what would happen if they didn't. It's an agreement. And it's an agreement made in hell, psychological hell, to keep you stuck in a psychological prison, even and especially if you live in an epically beautiful town on the coast. But it's only because of a collective agreement, a collective abasement, a collective inversion of the truth. God is Bill Gates and Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk, and they have a lot more God than you. If you're a three-dimensional capitalist, then your God is money. Because one thing the Bible thumpers and Jesus or Yeshua said that is obviously true is that the real original creator is within. And we are a lot like these beautiful birds. We're a flock. Our species has a collective mind. And that collective mind has been dialed into hell. And maybe if we learn from these birds how to survive in a way that was not in a prison, we could grow our wings back. We could fly free. Instead of being hamsters stuck in a wicked cage of oblivion. Because as long as we do what Yao de Bayoth says, he's going to keep tightening the reins. Like a man who works at Go Grocery Outlet and plays old classical songs on the fiddle told me, my rent goes up $100 every year. And why is that? I completely disagree with the local Teresa Carraggio, who said inflation is necessary for capitalism. No, inflation is necessary for the filthy hell on earth. Under a system, within the system of anarcho-capitalism, we could still have money and not slavery. But the vast majority who aren't extremely courageous gypsies, modern day gypsies, willing to face the ICE agents, the consequences of the filthy order followers willing to destroy lives to keep hell going. They don't have the courage to question it. They got to get back to work. Modern human financial slavery is a system of imprisonment where the walls seem to be invisible, or the walls are made of the coziness of your amenities, the coziness of domestication, the imprisonment of solitude. Did you know that the loneliness epidemic, just like the rise of cluster B personalities, is directly related to the acceptance, perhaps through moral, spiritual, and social cowardice, of the forcing of the tightening of the reins of the one world order of the capitalist money monster matrix. When, if you do have the courage, you could carve out some timeless moments. You could come over here and sit on West Cliff and meditate or enjoy a few moments. You could make some art or some music. You could imbibe the divine Christ Sophia within you. But not if you are fully accepting of your chains. I mean, think about it. Telling a chattel slave you're really free, you just don't see it. Most of them wouldn't believe you because they know that if they tried to escape, or if they got out of those chains that were loosely on their hands, they'd be whipped or killed or shot. What's the same thing now? Most folks who accept the financial chains, if you told them you could become free, there's a possibility you could be free now. You could experience bliss and creativity and freedom now. They won't believe you because it's a mental cage that the majority agree to. It's mental and psychological imprisonment that entraps the most of us. Can you get free? Can you see beyond the veil of forgetfulness? Is it possible to remember your past lives? Is it possible to create a future life outside of this memory wipe system like Tina, whose channel is called The Dark Matrix, says she's going to do to create your own realm? Well, because there is a ray of the divine creator within, the possibility for your essence truly is limitless. This is why psychological and spiritual awakening are imperative. But most folks will simply just say, I gotta get back to work as a financial slave. I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. Because the perceptual scaffolding of the panopticon is wrapped around all of us, tightening the reins with geoengineering and rent escalating and the cost of food escalating, the Greater Israel Project blowing up stuff, shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, trying to destroy the food supply systems. Like several years ago, they tried to tell all the chicken farmers, you got to kill all your chickens when they get infected with this bird flu, and the price of eggs skyrocketed briefly, but it didn't work. Why? Because some chicken farmers didn't feed their chickens commercial feed. They took care of them organically, and some, maybe tiny few, will not be financial slaves in the U.S. no matter what, even if they're hunted down and destroyed, because they have a deeper connection to the true original creator who never demanded blood, who never demanded sacrifice, who never said, you can only be good if you give me every moment of your life. If you stay stuck in suffering and misery under the Glock tie me, like the false self-god Kronos insists. There are those, and they may be dwindling in numbers, who will never be slaves under the dominion of Kronos. And there are those who can figure out how to make a living in the capitalist system through music or books or entertainment, even YouTube, without being slaves. And those are the real harmonizers and peacemakers in the society, because to those who really have their connection with the true creator intact, they can see that those handcuffs are loose.